what we at JMS Law are finding right now is one of the biggest issues is access the parents are facing, especially when one parent is having to be isolated for whatever reason. Perhaps they've traveled and now they're in a position of having to be quarantined. Parents are, what we're finding is that parents are not always as gentle and kind towards each other, which is something at GMS that we do encourage. Of course, it's not always possible because if one person is insisting on an argument, we then have to step in and assist in whatever way we can, and sometimes that means litigation. Right now, the court is not wanting to see matters before them unless it's an emergency, and they are asking that people be a lot more compassionate towards each other and ultimately use common sense, essentially. I think you used the word earlier, common sense, the common sense approach, and hoping that parents are going to see a better way out of all of this and to find ways to resolve matters and to become more resolution focused. And the court is really holding parents very tightly to that type of practice. So when we talked earlier about the reasonableness and the common sense approach is really about stepping back into becoming human again, right? And to forget about the fight and to think really more effectively about your children and what their needs are. And so they're asking parents to get a little more creative in terms of how they communicate and how children will see their parents. I mean, we have a lot of technology now that parents can utilize, things like FaceTiming or even Skype, as we're on right now. So there's lots of ways for parents to ultimately have the opportunity to connect with their children. So it doesn't always have to be physical contact. And so the course really asking parents to be a little more open-minded, something that we really do support here at JMS as well. Things, asking parents to step back and really look at the situation from a human perspective, looking at things from a more compassionate and a mindful practice, recognizing that we're all really facing some really difficult times right now, and if we can be a little more patient and work through this in a more loving and kind way, then we can be ahead of the game as we move forward. So, change, this is one of the things that I say to clients a lot, is that change is inevitable. The question is, how do we ultimately manage our way through it and come out on the other side feeling like a human being again? And so I think that's what the court is really pushing at this point and is really urging parents to be more cognizant of the situation and cognizant of each other, and so that their children won't be harmed in the process, right? Because when parents are fighting, as they are in these types of contexts, children are incredibly hurt. And because they're all at home now too, kids are hearing a lot of these conversations and they're privy to the parents' frustrations and anger with each other even more. At one point they had school as a break, now they don't have that. Or maybe they could have gone outside and hung out with their friends or be in another location. Now they don't have that. So even children don't have the reprieve that they would have had in the past. The human approach is something that I think we forget when we're in the middle of battle, and I say battle because that's how parents actually view it. I really support that, and here at the firm, we really support people coming at this from a human perspective, mostly because we know at the end of the day, this will affect our clients more than they actually can see in the moment. And so we try to help them to see the future as much as possible and to see themselves being successful in the future. Now, this doesn't mean that we don't litigate, and it doesn't mean that we don't stand up when it's necessary. We tend to, litigation is a last resort for us, and we understand that sometimes there's no other option, and if there is no other option, then that's what we're doing. However, throughout the entire time, even when we are litigating, we're constantly trying to remind the other side, as well as our own clients, the importance of resolution so that they can actually get on with their lives and they're not in the middle of this battle, for 10 years to come. And we've seen files that have lasted that long. And we've seen people who, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees unnecessarily, and not on us, because we are very clear about the fact that we want our clients to be resolution focused so long as it is possible. And if, our client is deciding to litigate unnecessarily, then we ultimately will say that perhaps we're not the best lawyers for you because we're not a hired gun. We want to make sure that people actually get their lives sorted out to the best of their ability as possible.